Welcome to Inside Insight, your quick hit of tips, tools, and trends for manufacturing, distribution, and Dynamics 365 Business Central. Brought to you by Insight Works.
Ever get that feeling on the shop floor where things just don't quite line up? The plan says one thing, but reality feels like you're constantly putting out fires.
Oh, absolutely. That disconnect you're talking about, that's often production variability making itself felt.
Variability.
Yeah, it's when, the same exact task takes a completely different amount of time or effort depending on the day, the order, maybe even the person doing it. And it's surprisingly costly.
Right. It's not just annoying, it actually hits the bottom line. So that's what we're tackling in this deep dive today. We're looking at the material you shared to really unpack this.
Exactly. We want to understand what production variability is, especially for folks using Business Central, why it's such a quiet killer of efficiency, and how getting a handle on it can lead to some pretty big improvements.
Because it's more than just messy schedules, isn't it?
Definitely. When things are inconsistent like that, your standard costs, they're likely wrong. Your scheduling becomes a guessing game. And honestly, it can even flag quality risks. It just creates this layer of uncertainty.
Okay, so let's get specific. Define production variability for us in this context.
Sure. So the material frames it as inconsistency in performing a specific task, like a step in your production routing. Imagine your routing says, I don't know, an operation should take 2 hours, standard time. But in reality, sometimes it's done in 30 minutes, other times it drags out to 4 hours.
Wow, that's a huge swing.
That swing is the variability. It's the gap between that planned 2 hours and what's actually happening on the floor.
And why is understanding that gap so critical? You mentioned costs and schedules.
Because it directly impacts performance, like the source material lays out.
Yeah.
If your standard costs are based on that 2-hour fantasy, but reality is wildly different, you don't actually know your true profit margins.
Okay, that's big.
And unreliable schedules mean you can't forecast capacity accurately, you might miss deadlines, or you might have expensive machines sitting idle. Plus, high variability might point to deeper issues, maybe inconsistent training, or even a flawed process.
So it's a symptom of potentially bigger problems. How do you even begin to measure something like that? The material mentioned a tool in Business Central.
Yeah, exactly. It talks about routing analysis. Think of it as a tool designed specifically to pull in the actual data from your shop floor, what really happened, and compare it directly against what your routing said should happen.
So it gives you visibility.
Precisely. It highlights where those deviations are occurring and, crucially, how big they are. It's about getting real data.
What kind of data are we talking about? Is it just like average times?
It's more than that, which is key. Yes, it gives you the mean time per quantity, the average actual time. Useful, but potentially misleading on its own.
How so?
Well, it also shows you the average actual difference and the percentage difference from your plan.
Right.
But the really critical piece is the actual standard deviation.
Standard deviation. Okay, refresh my memory on that one.
That tells you about the spread of the results. Are the actual times tightly clustered around the average, or are they all over the map? You could have an average time that looks okay, but a high standard deviation reveals underlying chaos.
Ah, I see. So the average might hide the inconsistency.
Exactly. And the material gives a really stark example. Operation 20, using a 4,000-watt laser. The configured routing time was 2 hours.
2 hours planned for the laser. Got it. What did the analysis find?
The analysis showed the average actual time was about 0.1 hours per unit.
0.1, that's 6 minutes.
6 minutes versus 2 hours planned.
That's staggering. That's a difference of nearly 2 hours per unit. You can't just ignore that.
Absolutely not. Think about scheduling that laser. You block out 2 hours, but it's actually free after 6 minutes. Your standard cost for that part is massively inflated. You're potentially turning down work because you think you don't have capacity.
Okay, the cost and scheduling implications are huge. And the standard deviation.
Right. Looking at that figure, say the 0.02517 hours mentioned in the source tells you how much those 6-minute runs actually fluctuate. Are they always around 6 minutes, or is it sometimes 3, sometimes 10? It adds another layer of understanding.
So you get this data, you see these massive gaps or high variability. What can you actually do about it?
Well, this is where it gets practical. The tool allows you to act on the data. You can see that 2 hours is wrong for the laser. The data says 0.0 hours is reality, so you can adjust the runtime directly in the system.
Just change it.
Yep, you can modify it, certify that change based on the evidence, publish it, and boom, future production orders start using the more accurate time.
Instantly better planning, more accurate costs.
Exactly. And better resource use. It feeds accurate information back into the system.
Who benefits most from seeing this kind of data?
It really touches multiple roles. Cost accountants can finally reconcile standard costs with something closer to reality. Schedulers can plan with confidence. Quality teams might see high standard deviation as a flag. Why is this task so inconsistent? Is it training, machine setup? And for continuous improvement folks, it gives them hard data to pinpoint unstable processes and measure the impact of changes. No more guesswork.
So the main takeaways are really about using actual data, right? Track actuals versus plan.
Use standard deviation to find and measure that variability.
Fix the root causes when you see big percentage differences.
Improve your margins with accurate routing.
And get your scheduling right, because MRP and planning systems need good data to work properly.
Fundamentally, it seems like this kind of analysis helps turn Business Central from just a record-keeping system into more of a proactive tool for improvement. You're diagnosing problems with data before they bite you.
It's about grounding everything in what's actually happening, not just sticking to a plan that might be way off.
Precisely. If you're serious about lean, about efficient operations, about accurate planning, you really have to start with the truth from the shop floor. Accurate data is step one.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Where in your own operations might that kind of hidden variability be lurking, quietly costing you money or causing headaches right now? Worth investigating.